At the time Al Picchi and I recorded this podcast, he worked for Howard Hanna as the president of the eastern side of New York, right? Like Capital Region, Central New York, like that area. As of yesterday, I'm recording this on August 24th, he became the New York State president for Howard Hanna. So his reach is way more massive now, and it's a real big step up in responsibility for Al. And I could see why Howard Hanna put him in that position. He's got over 20 years of managing experience, and he is really good at coaching not only his managers that work below him, but even agents, people who come on board. Al has always been in reach. Anytime you needed something, you could call him, talk to him, pick his brain about it. Doesn't matter what time of the day. And that's what I've always admired about Al. He has that reputation for being someone who like genuinely cares about the people that he works with and works for. So him now broadening his reach, getting that promotion to now of New York State, I totally understand why after our conversation that we had. It was really enlightening to kind of see real estate from more of a management perspective where you're trying to focus on building your agents, building your company. It was a really cool point of view that I don't really get to think about too much. So Al really got some awesome topics in. I asked whatever questions I could think of that I thought I could learn from. So I hope you learned something from this too. No more talking. Here is my friend, Al Picchi. Al, what's your official title with Howard Hanna?
So I'm the president of the Eastern New York District, which encompasses really the capital region, Syracuse, and the southern tier of New York State. So basically everything in Syracuse and east of Syracuse, and then really north of New York City.
Wow. So it sounds like pretty much everything in New York State, right?
Well, everything other than the western part of the state and really the whole Long Island, New York City, that Westchester kind of Dutchess area, that kind of falls into our other company, Howard Hanna Rand Realty, which covers that market. We call that the downstate market. This is really the upstate market.
Yeah, there's so much differences between those two markets, really.
Tremendously, and there's really a tremendous difference too in the way they do business. A lot of as you move downstate, they do binders and then move into contracts. Upstate is more just contract driven. So the standards of practice are tremendously different too as you move into that downstate market. For the most part, in the upstate area, it's kind of consistent. Agents draw up contracts, attorneys review contracts. There's different contracts in the market, but it's a more similar process.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people it's very different between state to state, but even in state,
Yeah.
there's different ways to handle it depending on where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. And we all follow the kind of standards of practice that kind of get dictated from either the association we're affiliated with or the MLS. And each MLS has some different nuances. We follow certainly the National Association of Realtors guidelines, but each individual MLS can have a little different way as long as it complies generally with what the National Association of Realtors wants. So there are some differences in practices, but for the most part, you look at going out meeting a buyer, drawing up a contract, having an attorney review it, doing inspections, doing all those things. Those are pretty consistent in every market.
Yeah, it's usually those same steps, but how you get to A, B, and C could be different
A little
paths.
bit different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't even know. I asked Mark Gray, I was like, what does a normal day look like for you, Al? Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, you get it. It's probably every day is different, but if it's
Right.
a normal run of the mill day, you come into the office, what does it look like?
So I'm an early riser in the morning. I usually get up around 5 or 5:15, 3 days a week. I usually leave my house at 5:45, go to the gym to work out at 6:30. So from 6:30 to 7:30, I work out in the gym. And then usually by 7:45 or 8 o'clock, I am in the office every day. So my days vary. When I say I'm in the office, I'm not really in the office all the time. I'm in the region here. So, much of my day sometimes is out in the field, going to our offices, visiting agents, talking with agents. on the phone a lot, trying to work through transactions. As you know, Cory, you're a very successful real estate agent. A lot of transactions now are timely to try to keep together. You get to a certain point and they need a little shepherding along the way to keep them together. So I talk with agents about some strategies sometimes, how to do that. And then really, it's going out and helping agents grow the business. It's really doing some business planning with them, sitting down and coaching them a little bit. I love to kind of meet with, newer agents, or those agents that have been with us for a few years, that have done, $3 or $4 million in business and want to get to 10 million, or have done 10 and want to get to 15, and to build a team, how they build a team, and do they get an administrative assistant first, or do they get a buyer's agent? So all that is stuff that really goes into a normal part of my day. And then, I certainly make some trips out to the other regions, out to Syracuse and out to the Southern Tier. I was fortunate that we got out there the other day. We had a great day for the clam bake. So for that, awesome. Agent interaction is great. It's really what makes the job really, really enjoyable, is when I get out in the field and get to meet with our team and everything.
Yeah, I was going to add, what's your favorite part that you get to do that's part of your job?
Yeah, so I guess to me, being in the office is part of what I need to do. But being out in the field with our team, whether it's working through a transaction, whether it's helping them grow their business, whether it's going to a function where a bunch of our team is together, like the clam bake that we just had. Those to me are the fun things to do. They're that you get to know people more on a personal level. Like you and I had that opportunity to talk for 15 or 20 minutes the other day, and I'm sure we wouldn't just pick up the phone and just say, "Hey, Cory, it's Al. How you doing?" And have that same kind of dialogue. So that's the fun part of getting that face-to-face stuff. And as we kind of work through, hopefully, the last stages of this whole pandemic we've been in for the couple of years, we get to do much more of that. I think the vast majority of the world today is kind of, okay, we got to get to as close to that normalized life as we can. People are starting to travel again. So I think everyone's really looking forward to that interaction, especially in our business, which is a very personal business. It's a lot of face-to-face. It was during the pandemic, and it is more so today. So, that's the part I really look forward to, that we can do more things like that. We can get more people together, and we really get agents back in the office. It looks like you're in your office there. I love to see agents in the office, and we've gotten to more of that, agents working from home. Some still come in the office. I think the most productive people have typically come into the office during the whole pandemic, but getting more people back into the office is really something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to, when we had met together at the clam bake, it was really nice because, we talked for 15, 20 minutes. I got to know you a little bit more, other than I think I met you one other time in passing, was just like, "Hey, Al, nice to meet you, Cory." And then we parted ways, but we got to sit and talk down for 15 minutes, and I roped you into doing a podcast with me.
Well, it's all good stuff. It's all good. And the great part is, between the three regions I have, you probably have 1,200 real estate agents that work under those umbrellas. But it's nice just when you get to sit down. We talked to a couple different people while you and I were even chatting, and I introduced you to someone that is a top agent in the market that you really hadn't even met before in the market. Those things are all kind of fun, and they help you grow your business. They help other people can make a connection with you, and hopefully that leads to some business between the two of you down the road.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. You helped me. You introduced me to Linda Rauch, which is like one of the top constantly producing agents in Skaneateles. So it was really cool. Like, even asking her a couple questions and figuring out like how she does things. I think that's also a part of this office atmosphere, is like getting to, when you're walking through the office, you hear Donna, how she's venting about how she's taking care of an obstacle in a transaction, or how she delegates this task. It's like, getting to be in the office is nice because I'm like absorbing all of this stuff while also working. And also, I get away from my 2-year-old. It's a little quieter in the office.
So, the nice thing is, like, when you get the opportunity to pick other people's, ideas and thoughts and how they do business, all of us have a great way, I think, to interact with people. But the more you know, and the more you can understand how other people that are successful have done it for a longer period of time, I think it just helps your business. You can take some of those, characteristics and traits, merge them into your business, and use them when you need to. And, someone like, Donna's a great agent in your office. She's got, I'm sure, great expertise and can help you with, different questions that you may have. And I think that's something that newer agents were really missing during the pandemic, is that interaction. We still brought a lot of people into the business, but without as many people being in the office, they didn't get that interaction. They didn't get to sit down and say, Cory, geez, I'm looking to do an open house this weekend. You're a great listing agent. Can I do an open house for you? There just wasn't as much of that going on. So it was harder to make those connections and really kind of find ways to understand the business better for newer people. It came really down to the manager and our training department, which has done a fantastic job working with them. But that human interaction, there's nothing that can replace that, really.
Yeah, and especially when my office is full of people who've been around since Howard Hanna was Realty USA, and before that, Gallinger. We got at least one or two of them I know that were here for Gallinger, and then even Realty USA. And those people are such a wealth of knowledge. Like, just you talk about business practices being so much different between agents, because you have like Linda Rauch. I don't think she is on Twitter,
no,
or Instagram.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean she's not successful, right?
No.
Like, and there's some agents who only put their eggs in the basket for social media, and they are very successful. So it's such a weird, and I say this all the time, it's such a weird business because there is a right and wrong way to do it, but there's lots of paths that are the right way to grow your business.
Well, and if you think of the basic premise of our business, it's finding ways to meet with buyers and sellers, right? So the more we can connect with people, the more we have opportunities to really grow that base of people. So whether it's you using social media, which I know you're on social media a lot, or whether it's Linda just marketing to friends and family that she has known and done business with, or it's someone reaching out to their COI, their center of influence, 7 or 8 times a year. No matter how you make those connections, as long as you're making those connections and helping people understand how you can help them understand what their wants and needs are and sell their house or buy a house, I think to me it's really all part of the makeup of the person, the makeup of the people you're communicating with. As you know, some people love to be communicated with via text messages. Other people want a phone call. So it depends on what the person's looking for that you're trying to connect with. But to me, it's all about making the connection with that buyer or seller, not necessarily how you do it. So,
yeah, right. Just staying like top of mind. There's so many different ways that you can stay top of mind. When you talk about helping an agent like grow their business, say like you have a new agent that comes to you and says, Al, I just want to grow my business from say 4 and I want to double it to 8. How do you like lay out the game plan for something like that?
So what I like to start with is, where has your business come from? So if you've done $4 million, how did you get that $4 million? Did you go out and do open houses? Did you work FISBOs? Did you start, marketing to your center of influence? So how did you get that business? And then trying to decipher as you look at that business, where did it come from? And then saying, what other areas can you use to build your business to get to 8 million? So maybe this person did a lot of open houses and really met buyers and sellers in open houses. And if they did $4 million from that, that's fantastic. Or have they started to reach out to those people they've done business with and connect to them every couple months or every 3 or 4 months and say, how can I help you or some of your friends or some of your neighbors either list their house or buy a house? And it's building that base of people up, but it's finding out really where that business has come from. So I talked to a lot of, agents, sometimes they're on a team and they're like, well, my team's not giving me as many leads as they used to because the leads are down right now. And then, what I always say to that person is, you got to look at every transaction you got from that team. So let's say you did 20 transactions and you're on a team and 10 of those came from the team leader, from their center of influence. Can you take those 10 transactions and find a way to get those on your own? Because when people say, I want to go on my own and it's time for me to leave a team, you always got to look at how much business is coming from a team, and great teams really feed those agents leads left and right, track them and everything. So, taking that agent from 4 to 8 million is really kind of looking at what their business is like, where that business is coming from, and then setting up a plan to really grow to the next level. They could be working with all buyers. So how do you get that person to start getting more listing focus, especially in today's market?
Yeah.
We want listings. I've said for the last year, if you have a listing, you pretty much have a 100% chance of getting paid. If you're working with a buyer, probably have about a 15% chance of getting paid. Probably a little bit better now, but 1 in 7 offers for the most part got accepted, in the last 6 or 8 months. And now maybe closer to 20 or 25 or 30%. But having listings, if you want to grow your business, being a strong listing agent, you're going to get buyers from that. So it's taking that $4 million agent, maybe getting a different focus on listings as opposed to just working with buyers. Because usually when you're newer to the business, you're more buyer oriented than
Yep.
seller oriented.
Yeah. And here I am 4 years in, I'm still very buyer heavy just because
Yeah.
it's like my generation of my, you said your SOI or COI
Yeah.
is just very young people who are ready to buy their first house. So it's like that's kind of my niche is tons of buyers. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think I'm about averaging about 7 offers until we get one written. I
Right.
mean, at least this was 2020, 2021. Now
Yep.
it's slightly skewed a little different. So do you prefer to like help that individual grow their business, or do you prefer like building up the team to grow the team business?
So it really depends on the agent. So, agents go on a team, in my mind, for one reason, and that's to generate leads that they can't generate themselves. So let's say an agent's new to the Albany market, has moved here from an outside area, spouse or someone got transferred to the market, and they want to get in the real estate business in Clifton Park. I may say, you don't have a center of influence here in the marketplace to generate leads on your own. So why don't you go on a team for a couple of years, use that team to get some name recognition in the market, help build up your name a little bit, help you get the money that you need to succeed and, get started. And then from there, maybe take the next step once you know the market more, once you understand the market, once you've made some friends in the market, then go out on your own and start building your own business. So that's where I think teams are really, really valuable. Some people just like to gravitate towards a team because they're not good marketers themselves. They don't do the things that we just said. They don't go on social media. They don't prospect. They don't do open houses, and the team can feed them business. So certain agents are great people persons. So when they get in front of a buyer or seller, they're great to work with. It's a matter of getting that buyer or seller in front of them. And so
Yep.
that's where a team comes in. An agent that I think, if they're a go-getter, they've lived in this area a long time. They have a good center of influence. They're willing to go out and make calls. They're willing to do open houses. They're willing to, put themselves out in the marketplace. Those are people that I don't think to need to be on a team because they can build their own business and build their own name recognition on their own.
Yeah, no, and it's like taking these goals and also like applying them to like a measurable base, like making sure that we can kind of keep tracking that to grow the business. And with somebody like, say, like somebody who's in real estate versus somebody who's like management or something, like in your position, how do you now measure your success, Al? Is it just like how each office does dollar wise, or is it also like retention in new recruits?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I guess I look at. So from our just a pure management standpoint, our managers, and this includes me, have two roles: recruit and retain. So
Yep.
we want to retain our team. So retaining our team is doing things that help their business to take their business to whatever level they want. So an agent like yourself, you want to grow your business, Cory. You want to keep growing year in and year out. Someone that's been here 20 or 25 years may be winding down. So how do you help them wind down their business? How do you help them take the database of people they have and not lose it and kind of transfer that to someone else? So that's all part of the retention process. It's doing great team building. It's having things in the office or doing things like we did with the clam bake. It's being there when our agents need them. If it's a Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning and you call me and you have a problem with a transaction, I want to be there for you. I want to help you kind of work your way through that. So as much as we don't want to think this is a 24/7 job, there's a lot of hours that we all put into it. So the management retention part is being there for our team, helping them grow their business or helping them to get the point in their career that they want to be at. And then the other side is bringing new talent into the company, where you call it talent attraction, whether you call it recruiting, whatever it may be. I think the old saying is if you do the same thing every day, you get the same results. So you either got to help your team grow, and you can do that, but you also got to help bring new talent into the business, because I think the more talent we bring in and the more business we have from our existing team, to be the best advertisement we can have. If I'm here in Clifton Park or we're in Syracuse and all of a sudden we have 10 or 15 signs in a neighborhood that say Howard Hanna. That's the best branding for all of us,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, they see your sign, they see Donna's sign, they see other agents in your office's sign. It helps build all of our brand and helps all of us get more business at the end of the
Yeah, and recruiting is such a different ballpark I've never had to think of. When I was in retail management, there was like very slight recruit. Like I always had business cards, and then if I was in I recruited this lady from Burn Dairy once when I was just thought she had great customer service, and I gave her my card. I'm like, hey, I'm assistant manager at Runnings. I want you to apply, call, and say that you know me. That was literally the only kind of recruitment
day.
that I know of,
Yep.
right? Which is bumping into somebody who I thought had great customer service. When you are trying to like recruit somebody, what's the game plan? Like, how do you have certain steps that you follow, or is it just like kind of vary depending on the agent?
Yeah, it varies depending on the agent. So it's certainly different recruiting someone new to the business that's never been in the real estate business before. It's showing them how they can be successful, how they can make 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 the first year. If I'm recruiting a more experienced agent, it's more about here's the product, services, and tools that we have that can help you become more efficient with your business. Because as you know, Cory, we have a tremendous amount of different tools. Not
Okay.
everyone uses every single tool, but 3 or 4 of those tools everyone should use to help them become more efficient in their business and help their business grow. So when you look at more experienced people, you look at why they're not happy with where they are, what has happened in their current environment, that makes them want to make a move. And so trying to find that out and then sitting down and try to solve that problem for them of how we can help them do whatever they need to do. That's kind of the talent attraction on the experienced agent side. And then the new agent side, it's really just showing them, what we have as a brand new agent that you can use to kind of reach out and kind of build your business to get to the first transaction, the fifth transaction, the 10th transaction. And we have a great support structure, right? We have great managers, as you well know from the from being in the office that you're in. And at the end of the day, taking those managers and helping a new agent grow the business. We just recruited an $8 million agent here in Clifton Park the other day, and it was the manager sitting down and showing that person on their laptop probably not all, but probably 6 or 7 different tools that we have and how that agent can use each of those tools to be more successful in making them more efficient, reaching out to their COI. So working smarter as opposed to working harder.
Yeah, and that's that. And I always, it's like when you're in this business, I get these recruitment calls all the time, and the thing that drives me nuts is like when Al, I hope I don't blow up one of something that you do, but it like when Al's secretary calls me to set up an appointment with Al,
Yeah.
that drives me crazy. I'm always like, have Al call me and I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that drives me crazy.
But I'm 100% on the same page. So to me, when we're trying to attract someone with a lot of experience, it's a personal connection. It's not the connection of, geez, I'm going to have someone else call you to see how they can make an appointment. And I had this, was a high school friend, and I'm not going to mention the company he worked for, but it was the same thing, and I hadn't seen the guy in probably 10 years. And he saw my name in the newspaper somewhere, and he had his administrative assistant call me. And he's like, so and so wants to have a meeting with you. I said, well, you can have so and so give me a call if it's really that
Yeah,
important to them,
I know.
And so that kind of stuff. Again, I'm on the same page as you. Our business is very much a personal, one-on-one business, I think. And to
Yeah,
attract people, you've got to be in front of them. You've got to be working with them. You've got to know them. You've got to know the business that they're doing. If you just closed on $1 million transaction, I may reach out to you and say, Cory, congratulations. I see you just closed on a big deal. I would not have my administrative assistant reach out to you and say, hey, Cory, Al thought I
yeah,
should
right.
reach out to you. It's a negative, I guess, touch as opposed to a positive touch.
Yeah, I don't, and I was kind of nervous saying because I was like, watch out, be like, hey,
No,
that's
that's
the way.
okay. That's
But
all
like,
good.
I'm a big fan of Tom Ferry, and Tom
Yep.
Ferry is always about like delegate, 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 delegate. But like something like that is just it's so weird, especially when you're trying to like show them the energy you have and show them the energy or the energy the brokerage has when you're trying to recruit them. It seems like a wasted phone call rather than Al being like, Man, let's get coffee. I want to know how you closed that $1 million deal. How did you
Right.
do that? I didn't think that house was going to sell for $1 million. Can we get
Yeah.
coffee? At least it's a more like, it seems like a more personal touch, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and again, to go back to what Tom says, I mean, he's a great coach. You do have to delegate the busier you get. I
Yeah, no,
have,
for
like,
sure.
when I sit down and talk to a team leader, and they want to grow the business from 15 million maybe to 25 million, and they have an administrative assistant today, and I'm like, well, so are you going to bring on buyer's agents and start giving buyer leads? I don't know if I can give up my buyer leads. The team said, team leader says, and they can't delegate. They don't want to delegate.
Right.
And
Right.
you're never going to grow your business unless you're doing transactions for $3 or $4 million, and you
Yeah.
only can do 8 or 10 of them a year, and do $30 million. You're never going to grow your business and get past 20 or 30 transactions
Yeah.
unless you find ways to delegate. I mean, I have a great team of managers around me. Obviously I have Mark Ray in your market. I have Marianne Morehouse in the southern tier. We have management teams underneath us. We have to delegate. There's no way that I would be able to, oversee the whole eastern part of New York State without being a good delegator, without having good people around you. So delegating is easy to do when you have a strong team of people to rely on, people that
Yeah.
have good experience. That's the same thing in building a team. So if you're looking to build a real estate team, you've got to have good people around you, so that if you go away for a couple of days, you don't have to worry about everything getting done, because you have a great team of people there to support you. You know that if you give Al Picchi a buyer lead, he's going to go out and take care of it. He's going to follow up with it. He's going to stay on top of it. He's going to make sure that he reaches out to the person 7 or 8 times as opposed to one time, to see if he can make a connection. Those are things that I think you have to teach people how to do as part of that team process. But to grow your business, you have to find ways to delegate.
Yeah. Last year I did just a little over, I was like 6 million.01 or something, like very just
Yep.
over the 6 million cusp. And I remember times last year where I feel like I was pulling my hair out. And
Yep.
I was almost to that point where I was like, all right, I need to do something here to grow the business. And do you think that number could be different? It's got to be different, because like last year at 6 million, it was like 30 something, 35 transactions,
Yep.
as opposed to like maybe somebody like Linda Rausch, who does 40
Or
million. Like 50 million, and it's 15, 20 transactions.
yeah.
There's a difference. But how does a real estate agent know when it's time to grow the business in terms of like their team, or finding new delegation products to put in place, or
Yeah.
systems to put in place?
Yeah, so each one of us, you, me, we all have points in our day or points in our week where we feel somewhat overwhelmed. Everything's coming at us at the same time. So to me, those are the situations you have to look at and say, is that happening once a day for an hour? Is it happening once a week for an hour?
Yeah.
Some agents can handle 30 transactions. I know some that can handle 40 or 50 transactions very easily. So when I sit down and try to coach someone of what is the next step, that's what the first thing I talk about is, how many transactions have you done? Well, first we talk about where do you want to be? And then how many transactions have you done? How many transactions can you do? So I said, if I'm meeting with someone may say to me, and this sounds like such a simplistic way to look at it, I can do one transaction a week. Well, that means you can handle 52 transactions over the course of a year. Person's like, yeah, I can do that. And I said, well, you're going to handle all these parts of the transaction too. You're going to handle the inspections. So you're going to go out and meet with the inspectors, right? Yes. You're going to work with buyers. You're going to work with sellers, because it's easier to work with a seller than it is be running around with buyers, and looking at 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 houses. So
Yeah.
it's also part of what the mix is in those transactions too, that determines how much business the person can handle. If you're doing 30 transactions and you're working totally with buyers, it's probably a different situation than doing 30 transactions and 25 of those are sellers
Yeah.
and 5 are buyers. So it's
Yep.
looking at the mix of business, but it's also looking at the individual person's makeup. Some people may say, hey, I have to get to my kids' sporting events at 5 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So those are times that I can't work. And you look at that then as a lower threshold of how much business they can handle. They still may be able to do 30, but can they do 40? The person who's doing the same thing that maybe doesn't have a family, and they just want to focus on the business, maybe they can do 40 or 45 transactions. So all the situations are a little bit different, and the makeup of the business somewhat determines how much of that unit number you can go up to. So again, like I said, if you're working with sellers, it's certainly a little bit easier than it is working with buyers today.
Yeah, a little less time
Yeah,
devotion. Yeah, it's funny you said earlier, it was like you got to think of it like how long are you dealing with these problems? Is like one day for 2 hours. And I remember last year I was having one of those moments where I was like, everything is on fire right now. I'm so stressed. And my wife would look at me. She was like, okay, so this is like an hour, right? Like you got to kind of put out the fire. That's an hour invested. But remember, when you worked retail, every single day was on fire.
sure.
You were on call 24. Like
Yep.
you always had fires to put out when you're in retail.
Right.
She's like, now in real estate, she's like, you're putting out those fires, but you get to be with Ashton. Like I get to be with my son,
Yeah.
like I get to make the phone calls while I'm still involved and invested with him. So it's like taking that step back for me has been a big reminder that it's like, yeah, maybe I'm stressed out right now, but all things considered, I'm still a lot better off than I was in retail.
Absolutely. And you're right. You have to put everything in perspective of
Yeah.
either where you are or where you're going, and one thing I see, it doesn't happen often, but, you put out that fire and you're all hairy trying to get everything done. And then you're running to a listing appointment 5 minutes later and you run into that appointment and
Throws
you're still
everything
kind of
off.
crazed. Yeah. You're like, you're all over the place. And so, one of the things I say to people is once you put out the fire, once you get the problem solved, you got to kind of put it out of your mind. It's out of mind, out of sight, because the last thing you want is to walk into that listing appointment still carrying the baggage of the problem you had a few minutes ago, because then you're not going to do a good job in the appointment either. So you got to, one of the things in our business, you've got to really shut out the negative stuff, focus on the positive stuff. And certainly when you go into an appointment, whether it's with a seller or buyer, they're the most important people in the world at that moment. You may have to go back and solve that problem once you get out of that meeting again, but you got to keep focused on that specific situation at that time.
Now, what is the best piece of advice you would give an agent looking to grow their business?
Well, I guess, look at, I always say you don't have to invent the wheel. Look at people who are successful in our business. Sit down with someone in a different market. At Howard Hanna, we have agents in all different markets. Find someone like yourself that's successful. If I have a new agent here and I'm saying to her, or him, how do you want to grow your business? And they're like, I don't know. We're like, well, find another person in the office to talk to, or talk to me, or talk to the manager, and just come up with a path. Everyone's path to grow their business is going to be a little bit different, but this agent could have the same path as you do and do the same things that you do to be successful. So, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel to kind of, look at someone else's game plan. You may not share what you do with people in the office, but you may share it with someone in a different market who's not competing against you, how you've grown your business. And, I look at some agents having a mentor in the office to work through 3 or 4 transactions with and help them understand what they need to do. One of the biggest challenges for new agents is they feel like they have to learn everything before they go out on a listing or a buyer appointment. And trust me, I learn something new every day. I had a call an hour or two ago. It's something I've never heard of. I had to think about it a little bit, come up with a solution for it. So we all learn new things every day. But as an agent, you can't know everything. And you can't know every question that's going to be asked of every transaction. You've got to be flexible enough to say, geez, I can find out that answer for you and answer it in a way where it's not coming across like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I can find a solution for you. And so, helping new agents grow their business, I do think a mentor's great. I do think partnering with an agent in the office is great. I think an agent or a manager going out and doing the first couple listings with an agent is great. We had a situation the other day where I know an agent was going out on a big transaction. It was a $3 million listing. And the agent's a pretty successful agent. She's probably a $7 or $8 million agent. She brought her manager along with her because she was uncomfortable going out on that transaction by herself. Yeah. And that's what you should do. You should never be afraid. I think whether it's you, whether it's, me, if I need some help with someone, I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. It could be Hobie, it could be Merle, it could be, someone just say, hey, I need some help with something. This is, it's above where I'm comfortable making a decision on. And you get to that point all the time, I think, as real estate professionals, and we have to bring someone along with us. And I think our managers are great resources to go out with agents, new and experienced, and help them feel more confident, but also bring a different perspective to that seller or buyer. If you walk in with your manager and you say, hey, this transaction is so important to me that I want to have another set of eyes and ears here to hear what is important to you, how we can best market your house, how we can get this house sold for you. That goes a long way with a seller that you brought another level of expertise in.
Right, right. And you mentioned that mentor. For me here at Howard Hanna, I literally picked this brokerage because Donna Jordan was here and I wanted to be her mentee so bad because I have a long history with Donna. She's been in my life since I was a 17-year-old kid with a whole crop of like skater, surfer boy hair when I was a cashier, right? And she is phenomenal. And that was one thing that she always stressed to me, like even after our mentorship, like the Howard Hanna contract mentorship broke, she was still like, just call me. Like, that doesn't mean like you can't talk to me about stuff.
Sure.
So like I had an issue this past week that I called Donna on and I was like, I don't know what I would do with this. How do you take care of that? And she was always a big proponent of saying like, never be afraid to say, I don't know how we do
Yeah.
X, but let me do some research and then I will get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think most people know when we give an answer that's not a legitimate answer to, because you're kind of like, I'm thinking a little bit on, and then, I got an idea. And the person, I think if they're, smart enough, is probably like, well, that person maybe just came up with that. That's a bluff. That's not a legitimate answer, And so that hurts you more sometimes than taking that step back and saying, I'm going to answer the 90% of the questions that you gave me, and there's one or two that I just need to do a little bit more homework on. I'll get back to you within an hour or two, not 3 or 4 days, though. It's an hour or two, that you're going to circle back to.
Now, last question, and I asked you this at the clam bake, but I want to ask again because I want to make sure it's in my mind. Like we're talking about the importance of a mentor, and even at somebody in your position, you had mentioned that you had a mentor. Who, if you don't want to mention who it is, that's fine. But like, what qualities of that mentor really attracted you towards finding advice, finding the information from them?
Yeah. So, again, when I look at a mentor, and again, I've had a couple great ones. It's really the tough love conversation. It's like, you go to your mentor where you're feeling overwhelmed sometimes, you're feeling down in the dumps, and you're feeling like, woe is me. And that person helps build you back up again. So I guess, to me, one of the best qualities of mentors, just being there for someone. So like when I pick up the phone and I'm having a rough day and I call, one of the couple people that I know are going to pick up the phone right away. And it's like, hey, here's a situation I have. Can you help me solve it? And sometimes, in fact, most of the time, I have the answer. I just want to hear that same answer from someone else too, that it's reinforcing what I'm thinking. So, again, we have a lot of coaches in the business. So, a lot of people use coaches to help kind of motivate them to do more. Some use their manager, some use myself. You use Donna Jordan, or someone else in the office to help guide you along. So whoever that mentor is, to me, it's got to be a person that you like, that you trust, and that you're comfortable having, tough conversations with. You're kind of spilling your heart out a little bit to that person when you're having a rough day or when you're down in the dumps. That person helps building you back up again.
Yeah, but also like not only building you back up, but also not being that yes man, right?
Absolutely.
Like if
Yeah.
you fudged up, you don't want them to be like, "Oh no, Al, you are good. The floor is sacred where you walk. It is no like." You want to be like, "Al, you messed up a little bit. It's all right though. We can fix it." Like you want that tough love.
Well, and again, so I have the great opportunity of managing a real diverse group of people in East New York, and I'm a big delegator. I'll be the first to admit. So, when someone comes to me and says, hey, I have a question on how to do something, it's like, tell me how you want to solve it first, and they some people were like, well, I'm asking you the question, but I gotta be honest with you, I kind of made a decision already. I'm like, that's fine. So, execute that decision, let me know how it goes. And they may come back to me and say, well, didn't go as well as I would have liked. And that's when I give them a little bit more feedback of here's something I may have done a little bit different in that situation. But I'm a big proponent of you're never going to grow as an agent. You're never going to grow as a manager. You're never going to grow as a person if you don't kind of feel comfortable making your own decisions. If you've got to rely on someone all the time to say yes or no for you, then how are you going to grow as a salesperson in our business today? So I'm all for go out, as a new agent, maybe bring someone with you so you don't make too many mistakes. But as you feel more comfortable, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to make decisions that are not, the best decision for that seller, the best decision for that buyer. But you can't go back on those decisions. You just got to learn from those decisions and learn as you move forward. Here's another way to look at that opportunity and do something a little bit different. So,
Dang. Al Picchi with the mic drop right at the end of the podcast.
hey, it's all good, my friend. And again, it's a great business we're in. This is my 21st year here.
That's crazy.
15 years
21st
with
year.
21st, yeah, 15 years with Realty USA, now 6 with Howard Hanna. So it's been a great business for me. I love it, and I most appreciate opportunities to get to work and interact with people like yourself, Cory.
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Man, you're such a busy dude, and you took out 45 minutes of your time. I really appreciate it. It was great getting to chat and getting to know you a little bit better. I heard so many great things about you from Merle and of course Mark, and just being able to chat more rather than be like, "Hey Al, nice to meet you. See you later.
Absolutely.
Have a good night." It's refreshing.
Well, it's funny. Well, I saw you at the convention, and I knew you had a role as a speaker there. And again, it's nice to find that time where we could sit down for 15 or 20 minutes and then do a podcast together. So
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate you reaching out to me, Cory, and I look forward to doing more to help your business grow and do more stuff like this. It's great.
Yeah. Next time we'll get coffee or beer or something.
I like the second one better.
Thanks, Al. I appreciate you, dude.
Take care, buddy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.